This is an odd feeling being like strapped down and questioned, like interrogated.
Yeah.
These bright lights on.
Does it feel like an interrogation?
Kinda, like I have no choice. I can't do anything but stay and wait this out.
Becoming paralyzed is many people's worst nightmare, but to me, it's my reality. I'm Cruz, and today, I'm bringing you into my world. Let's hope you can get some perspective, and let's have a chat.
All right, people, welcome back to this week's episode of Paralyze This. My name is Cruz Bogle. I am your quadriplegic host of this show, and the point of this show is to change your perspective, whether you have a disability, whether you don't have a disability, whether your perspective is being changed on the people in your life, the people all around the world itself, how we interact with the world, and how we interact with everything around us. So here today with me, I have Bryan Galvin. He is the founder of Plastic Symptoms. How you doing, man?
I'm strapped in. That's how I'm doing.
Yes, you are, dude. How are you feeling? What are you feeling?
You know, I feel all right. I feel good. You know, You're here with me. We're doing this thing.
We're gonna get through this thing together.
Yeah, we're gonna get through this thing. We got what, 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
Yeah, 20, 30 minutes of you strapped in. So we've got him strapped at the chest, at his arms, at his knees, and at his shins. So he's unable to move 80 or so % of his body right now. And the point of that is just to give him the perspective of what it may be like to live with some sort of physical disability where he would be unable to move. Plastic Symptoms, man. Tell us a little bit about what it is.
Yeah, sure. So Plastic Symptoms aims to educate people on the effects that plastics have in our environment and on us, on our genetics, on our health, as well as trying to create positive solutions in the process.
Right on. So when did you come up with this? When did it come to fruition?
So it's been a long time coming. It was definitely back in high school. I used to help people. Shout out to Caitlin and her prophecy, and I would help her pick up trash, pick up litter, pick up things on the road, take pictures of it for documentation for her website, things like that.
Right.
But she would always refer to them as like rubbish and like trash, garbage, litter.
Yeah.
And then the famous term marine debris. And I just felt like that was not a part of understanding the problem. You don't go to the store and buy litter. You don't go to the store and buy trash. You don't go to the store and buy marine debris. You go to the store and buy plastic. And when you call it what it is, then you put the power in the consumer's hand if they want to put that in the environment or not. It's right there at the store. It's up to them.
Okay.
And so when you look at it that way, you start to realize that if we just define this a little bit differently, change our lens, our perspective on what this rubbish, this trash, this marine debris is, and let people know that we have a choice in the matter. So that's how Plastic Symptoms came to be, and trying to define the marine debris as a symptom on our shoreline.
Nice. So that's in high school, would you say, is when you became most passionate about trying to actually make a change?
Well, in high school, I'd say that I was more interested in surfing and stuff like that, and being out in the water or swimming, and it was just always in my way kind of thing. And then it was probably right after high school, I was surfing and doing this for friends that were in high school friends of mine who were going off into college and doing higher learning studies.
Right.
And I would kind of help them out with it, and in the background, and it helped me realize what I was encountering when I would go surfing or swimming or go to the beach and enjoy the day was more than just marine debris or litter. It wasn't stopping. It was accumulating more every day after a storm, things I knew or identified, things that I'd never seen before.
Right.
So it was definitely a slow process for me to understand the way I do today, and that's kind of what we're trying to do, is show that perspective to people today, how I was able to come to the solution, which is staying away from plastic in the first place,
right,
than to think that we have a chance in even solving the issue by recycling.
Right. Yeah, that's a whole nother, like, everybody's set on recycling and that it's gonna dispose of plastic in the correct way, but it doesn't even really do that, does it?
No, not at all.
Where does it go when we recycle it? What happens?
So if we recycle plastic today, the chances are that maybe 60% or 70% of what you recycle, if you recycle everything perfectly well, like clean everything the way you're supposed to, maybe 60 to 70% of those things will end up in the recycling plant. But then the other 30% will get landfilled. And of those 70% that end up in the recycling plant, we ship a lot of our recycling off to other countries.
Right.
So there's this misconception that a lot of these other countries are polluting far more than we are in America here, which is accurate when you look at if you just take it for if I was an alien and I landed on Earth and I saw all the plastic being recycled or dumped in the ocean, I would point a finger at the other countries. But if I went in and investigated a little further, all those other countries, mostly, their plastic consumption is just a residual of what we create. So it's just a very small subsidy of the American plastics that are being created.
So we just dump it off on them and then they essentially look like the bad guy because they have to deal with it?
More or less. I mean, they do have the lenient regulations on dumping a lot of that type of stuff, and they don't have like the manpower that we do in America with the police force that we have versus what they have to enforce the regulations that might be put into place.
Right.
So it's basically just get away with it. I mean, they can open a corporation up and then do business with a corporation in the United States, and then when they pass it along, they pass it to another business that passes it to another business that passes it to where it ends up going into a riverway, like in Malaysia or in Asia and China, and the Philippines. I mean, we're not the only ones doing it either. Australia, Europe, but we do have more lenient regulations on what's accepted at the counter. So if you go to buy a water bottle, chances are that water bottle has more like endocrine disruptors is what they're called, that will affect your body than a water bottle in Europe would, because they've banned a lot of those same chemicals that we use in America.
In the process of making the plastic bottle.
Just actually creating the plastic bottle.
Right.
So what the plastic bottle is made out of these chemicals that disrupt. They're known to disrupt and cause cancer. They're known to disrupt our genetics, our DNA. They're known to mutate our DNA and genetics. But because of the lax regulations that can be a good thing for an up and coming economy, but for a sustained economy like the United States of America, it's like we could definitely do without a lot of these chemicals. And the United Nations has set kind of a bar after the United States of America did. They followed in the footsteps of the U.S. and now they've already gone on to ban about 1,500 of these known carcinogens, these known endocrine disruptors, whereas we have only banned about 10 or a dozen or so.
Really?
They're the same chemicals. They're
just different names.
It's just, yeah.
Wow, that's wild. Yeah, I don't even think about it like from that perspective of the plastic actually being bad for our health. I just thought of it as, it's like a cup. It's just plastic. You just drink out of it.
Right. So like we've been so used to we have some plastics that help us. Like this straw right here is made out of plastic, and this chair is mostly plastic, and a lot of the things that help us, like the earpiece that a lot of us use, or our cell phones, are plastic. But the difference is that those are not single use. Those are multiple uses. They have their positivity definitely outweighs their negative effect on the environment. But when you look at something that's only used one time, one day, then you can throw it in the trash on the street, or even if you recycle it, and you realize that. And I'm going to jump back to recycling for a second. And even in a perfect world, if everything that we put in the recycling bin was clean, we would only get back 60% recycled product with 40% fresh resin. And so what that means is that everything that you buy that says 100% recycled on it really only has 60% of that material is recycled. The other 40% is fresh plastic resin.
Gotcha.
And it's a molecular, this is in the molecular structure of the plastic with the blocks. They cannot adhere to each other without that fresh plastic resin. So they have to add fresh plastic resin in everything that we recycle. So if you think that you're making less by recycling it, you're really making more.
Well, that's why we got people like you fighting it, huh? Trying to come up with the solution.
That's right.
Let's
We're
go.
gonna come up with a solution.
All right. A couple of years ago, I think it was just over 2 years ago, you went on a 400-mile hike down the east coast of Florida from Fernandina Beach all the way down to Miami Beach, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
That was just over 2 years ago?
Yep, 2017.
Right on.
It was on April 27th. It took off. The goal was I could only take 30 days off of work. So I wanted to see how much plastic accumulated on our coast in like one swab and one tide.
Right.
I also wanted to try and convince like close family and friends that the plastic issue was more than what we thought recycling was like the answer to. And so I had kind of put all those pieces together. I had fallen into some awesome nonprofits like Balloons Blow that helped me understand the plastic problem even further. And then I set off to hike the east coast of Florida and try to make it as challenging as possible. I looked up, how long people could hike, and the average hiking was about 20 miles for like something that was like excruciating or interesting to watch. And then the other thing that was interesting would be to do the entire east coast and pick up as much plastic as I could. So it became hike 420, 400 miles in 20 days was the goal. It took me 22 days and picked up about 2,000 pounds of plastic.
2,000 pounds of plastic. And like you said, that's only like one tide, one spot at that one particular day because you were just walking through.
That's right. So that represents not even 0.1% of the Earth's surface.
Yeah, that's
and
the smallest amount.
Yeah, and it doesn't represent even that. And we picked up 3,000 or 2,000 pounds on that epic hike, and we recorded so much more than that. And the idea was kind of to take that and put it into a game for other people to encounter with me so that they could witness the plastic on the shoreline. So I had 3 GoPros strapped to me the whole time. I got lots of footage, talked to lots of people, and have still yet to even go through the entire terabyte of footage that I have from that walk.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you were talking to like city officials and mayors and news teams along the way, right, to raise more awareness?
Yeah, that's correct. And so we try to get the attention of different House representatives. Well, for the first one, actually, it was more of like, can I do this thing? How far can I get? And who's going to watch? And are people really going to pay attention? Like, I thought it was important enough to do, and so I did it. But then fast forward to hike of this year, which was 1,200 miles. And then we really reached out to media groups. We really reached out to stopping in at commission meetings. We stopped in and talked with a couple of mayors. We stopped in and talked with a couple of senators.
Nice. So this one was Fernandina Beach all the way down around the Keys. Did you go down the Keys?
So we skipped the Keys. We did 2 cleanups. Key Biscayne, we did a cleanup there with the local, and then we went down to Key Largo, and then we headed back up
the west coast and all the way to the Panhandle.
Up the west coast all the way to the Panhandle.
1,200 miles.
Yes, sir.
So this one, the first one was kind of like a tester, 400 miles. Is this going to work? Are people going to care? This last one, 1,200 miles, was more of, all right, let's make this change. Let's start getting in people's faces and really trying to like create something.
That's right.
And how'd it go? Would you say it was a success?
Oh yeah, it was a great success. Well, so far, and a success being that we accomplished what we set out to do, but we haven't succeeded in creating a full solution that has actually done anything to the plastic issue. Heather Bullen, my partner in Plastic Symptoms, actually emailed me after Hike 420 in 2018 because she had a similar idea to walk the coast, and the YouTube videos I made from Hike 420 was the only thing she found that came remotely close to her idea, which was to raise awareness as well while walking the coast of Florida.
Right.
And so when she emailed me, I basically just told her everything I was working on. I gave her more than she needed to know, a TMI email, and I looked back at it and I was like, wow, I would have been overwhelmed by this guy dumping all of his ideas and things that was trying to accomplish, and then it turned into this, and this is where I think it should go. Do you want to team up? And she was like, yeah.
She was all about it.
She was all about it. And so we met for lunch and did a fundraiser, made Plastic Symptoms into a 501c3, and we set off on the longest beach hike in recorded history.
Boom. Drop that fact. Say that again.
Yeah.
That's epic, man.
Yeah.
And that was what, just a couple of months ago you guys finished that?
Yeah, so we just finished that July 1st. That was our last day.
Right on. How many pounds of plastic did you pick up?
3,000 pounds.
3,000. And that was like 3 times the hike?
It was about 3 times the hike with 2 people. And there were instances where we could have probably gotten more plastic, but we knew we had so much longer to go.
Right.
And we still, again, the first time I did the hike, I didn't really have the perfect plan for who was going to haul the plastic. And the second time we did the hike, we had a better plan, but it was not nearly perfect for how we were going to haul all the plastic.
Right.
So we decided recording it, at least for a data map, would be important for people to see. So we're putting together a data map right now that we've been working on tirelessly the last few weeks now, and we have a lot of. It's really cool when I start up this map because you just start it up and you see all these blips across the screen just pop up with all the plastic pollution that we might have picked up or we left behind. And so we're trying to mark things that we know we picked up or left behind so we can differentiate between the two. So our guess is 30,000 pounds on the coast at any given time on any given tide that gets pushed in every day.
That's insane. It's a huge amount. From this, I wasn't able to make it down to the beach, but after this Hurricane Dorian just kind of hit us, the beaches in Delray, I just saw from people's Snapchats and Instagram, there was like so much plastic. And that's just like, I guess the hurricane just churns it up and pushes it onto the coast more because of the weather.
Yeah, so we're gonna see a lot of plastic. Right now, it's just what's been already floating out there.
Okay.
It's not really so much new plastics washing in, but within the next several weeks and a couple of months here, we'll probably even see some more fresher plastics that come in from the disparity of Dorian on the Bahamas.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's just stuff that's been sitting on the ocean floor, been floating around in the Sargasso. Maybe it's accumulated in the Gulf Stream and it's coming up, and it's just finally got pushed in past the Gulf Stream.
Right. Damn, terrible. 30,000 pounds. You said per day?
But that's what our guess is. We think that every day on every tide, 30,000 pounds gets pushed in, and some of it gets pulled out in the same tide, and
Right.
some of it stays, and then another 30,000 pounds gets pushed in, and some of it gets pulled out, some of it stays.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers going out to the Bahamas as well. They got hit extremely hard by Hurricane Dorian. A lot of people have started raising funds and donations to take over to them to help support them because they really got crushed. So thoughts and prayers out to them.
And that's something else about plastic I'm going to say real quick is, a lot of times we bring out these single-use plastic items and water bottles and stuff to help people, and obviously it's life over limb at this point. We need to make sure that people are alive and surviving, but another big part of it is these industries and governments could definitely do a better job at sustainable resources for these places that get destroyed.
Right. As far as what?
Maybe something that
Water
catches
bottles.
rainwater, maybe even bringing barrels of water instead of plastic water bottles, They're going with the cheaper alternative that's right there instead of like thinking forward, and because we're going to have to pick up all those water bottles too.
Right. Damn, yeah, so that just adds into the never-ending cycle of plastic.
That's right. And so the governments don't necessarily want us to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
It makes us dependent. So of course they're not going to pick the more sustainable route either. So to them, they're going to bring it to you, and you're going to use it, and we're going to be alive, and that's a huge deal in itself. So if we have the choice between life or limb, we're going to choose life. And that's fine. But as we get smarter and we prepare for more storms, I think we should start looking for sustainable ways of doing that.
Right. It's a great idea, man. Without people like you doing what you're doing, then that change wouldn't even occur. So, hands up, clapping to you, my friend.
Can't do it. Strapped in.
Yeah, you can do that at the moment. So, how is plastic actually like affecting us? You kind of mentioned it earlier, but how is it affecting us, like the ecosystems, wildlife out there? And how do you get the average human who doesn't really care or think that it's a big deal to use a plastic water bottle every day and throw it out, use another one the next day? How do you get them to care and like actually make a change?
So that's a good question. So I'll answer the environment part first. So the plastic that we use, every time we use it, it's already breaking down in our hand. So let's say a plastic water bottle, for instance. As soon as we walk out in the sunlight, the sun touches it, the UV rays cause photo degradation on the plastic bottle, and it photodegrades into your water, and you're drinking microplastics whether you want to or not. So I think that sharing the facts and the truths about what's happening and the science behind our plastic in general would help a good amount of the population kind of flip their look on plastic. And for the ones that really just don't care and are just going to keep using it until somebody finds a solution, I like to point out that those microplastics aren't having no impact on you. They are having a definite impact on you, whether you realize it or not. And when your child is born with diabetes, autism, obesity, some sort of Down syndrome, on the spectrum of a mutation, a genetic mutation, it could very well be from all the plastic you've encountered in your life. And that's a really hard truth for people to understand and swallow.
For sure.
So when we look at the plastic consumption that we all do and we're all a part of, it also ends up in the environment, and it can have a serious problem for just like we have the warning signs, choking hazard for babies and infants not to get their hands on it. Well, animals can't read that, and animals are gonna go up to it thinking it's something natural in our environment. Even on the trek that I did, the 1,200 miles, I was constantly getting fooled by nature, thinking I was picking up a straw, it was just a stick, or thinking it was a plastic fragment, like a broken piece of plastic, and it was a shell. Or like running into the jellyfish on the shoreline thinking it was going to be a plastic bag, it was just the exoskeleton or endoskeleton of the jellyfish. Right. So that if we can get tricked so easily by nature, and it really opens the perspective to how easily nature is going to get tricked by humans.
Right.
We even make things to look like real leather out of plastic. We make things to look like real fruit or vegetables out of plastic. We make those things even in your favorite Hollywood or Netflix TV show. I'm sure they use plastic things in there that aren't really food. It's just to make it look like food, like decorative fruits and vegetables, things like that.
100%.
We fool each other all the time with plastic, so it's no question that nature's going to get fooled. And to the people that say, well, I throw mine away anyway, I'm not part of the problem, and I think that's who you're alluding to, the people that are going to keep using it regardless of how bad it is for the environment. And we got a lot of that on the walk, on the trek. People would say, well, I throw mine away, and they'd be sipping on their plastic water bottles with their styrofoam cooler out there while we were picking up plastic off the beach.
Right.
And it's like, plastic doesn't go away no matter what you do with it. And so I think part of the solution to making people understand it for themselves, because I think people do care. I think people care enough that they think they're not a part of the problem, they're throwing it away. I think they care enough to think that, to think for themselves, to survive for the day, they're going to drink water today. And so I think people do care. I think people just don't know. And I think it goes back to the same way I looked at plastic before I knew. And it wasn't that I didn't care, so I just didn't know.
Right.
But if there was a way to measure between people, because I know people love games, video games, NFL, people love competition, they love a good fight,
Right.
and if they knew where they stood on that line on the fight, and so that's kind of what we're trying to do, is create competitive ways for people to opt out of plastic. And so they can kind of compete with their friends, they can compete with the people around them. We're using a blockchain solution that maps the plastic as well, that anyone is free to check out. That's Open Litter Map, and so you can compete with your friends in picking up plastic off the streets and mapping it out. And Plastic Systems is basically going to rank the highest in the state of Florida in the United States here after we publish all of our findings from the trek. So they can try and compete with us if they want to.
Nice. So what they essentially, if they pick up a piece of plastic, they go onto this site and just kind of log what they did, and then that puts it out there on the web, and then other people can see who picked up this trash and where it was picked up.
That's correct.
Nice.
So that they can take a picture with the GPS on. I was trying to use my hands to show you. So they can take a picture with the GPS on and upload that, and then say what it is in the database, and then it credits you points. And then you mine something called a litter coin, and you get rewarded with all your points, and you accumulate these litter coins. So we've been working with them pretty closely, trying to help them fine-tune their app that they just put out there. I think you can find it now on the Android store, but we can definitely link their website here. And then what we're trying to do with that is we're trying to do something similar, and that's how we fell into conversating with them and teaming up with them. Was our idea is basically to reward people for not using the plastic, and how we do that is kind of interesting, and I guess you'll have to keep following us to see how we do that. But we invite everyone who's interested in the ideas, interested in technology, interested in solving the plastic pollution problem. We want to work closely with them. We want to work closely with the community, with businesses, to try and get them to change, because this entire plastic pollution issue doesn't need to fall directly on the consumers, and we found out firsthand in our trek that it's essentially forced on us. We tried doing the entire trek plastic free, and you can see on our video, we can link that as well. You can see how much plastic we accumulated in our own, just trying to live, in our own sustainability efforts. We couldn't always find the bulk place to fill up our own bag. We couldn't always find a way to opt out of plastic, and so we thought that was just as important as logging the plastics on our coast, trying to show people that even when you are 100% that you don't want to use the plastic, you still get forced somehow throughout your day to use it.
Right. Because the things that we need are bagged or bottled in plastic. So.
Right, and where we have the most control, we can at least opt out of that single-use plastic bag at the end of our shopping experience. But the experience we have in the stores, we've been trying to let places, retailers know that we don't want this plastic. So can you order it without the plastic and give it to us without the plastic? We'd appreciate it. And so the more people that say things like that, the better. But our goal is to work with those places to make it easy for them to make the swap, and so that you and I could compete on how little plastic we use.
On that note, you used to work at Publix.
Yes.
So you kind of saw firsthand how many plastic bags and hot dog bun wrappers and all that stuff was going in and out of that store, huh?
Yeah, so that definitely helped me understand the plastic pollution problem for how I do today. If it wasn't for me seeing it every day in high school and picking it up and throwing it away, and I was so nonchalant with it, it was until filling up numerous trash bags of styrofoam and plastic at the end of a day working in the meat department or bagging people's groceries and how much plastic bags they'd have to refill at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then multiplying that by how many stores or people there are in a city.
Right.
And it's just one city.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's like that all over the country and world.
Right.
Wild, man. So what is the big picture solution? And like, is there a solution? You kind of touched on a few different topics of, you know, how to start creating change, and how to initiate a solution, but like, is there a big snap of the finger solution to this plastic epidemic?
The short answer is everything that you do has an effect. And so if people could actually see that in some sort of a receipt, a digital receipt, that they didn't contribute to plastic at that moment, and they can add those up. And that's what we aim to do with Sea Change, is to make people see the difference that they can create by opting out of plastic.
So sea change is also like the literal sea change, but also it is a coin, right? Like a cryptocurrency type deal.
It's kind of like that, yeah. And so it's on the blockchain, and it's movable like a cryptocurrency, but it's not a currency or anything like that. It's just a digital thank you. It's a digital receipt for opting out of plastic.
Well, follow along. I will link Sea Change here and Plastic Symptoms. Follow along if you'd like more information on that and how you can make a change. On that note, we're going to finish up here. What do you want to tell these viewers and the world about plastic and how they can make a difference?
Realize that your life doesn't have to be all these single-use plastic items, and that honestly you're just being lazy, because you can definitely fill up a water bottle on your own. You can definitely say no to plastic at the end of that plastic bag, and we have to understand that we're really pouring more fuel into the pockets and hands of the people that are greedy enough to keep pushing that plastic on us. And so as long as they're making money for it, I don't see why they should want to change.
Right.
Just honestly, say no to plastic.
You heard it. Say no to plastic. Start making a little change. Use one less bottle a day, whatever you have to do. And hopefully, with the help of people like Bryan, plastic epidemic will start to diminish.
And I just want to say thank you, Cruz, for what you're doing here and the perspective flip that you're giving your viewers the opportunity to see and feel, and all the hot topics and the different walks of life you brought to the table. So I just want to say thank you.
Dude, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah, like I said in the beginning, the goal is to change people's perspective, whether it's on plastic or having a disability or just, you know, the traffic on your way to work. Change your perspective, have a positive outlook on life, and see change. Try to make a change where you can. So, dude, I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate your kind words, and I hope you continue on this journey and change the world, man. That's what we're out here trying to do.
With your help, that's possible.
Let's do it, man.
One just for the records, if they ban the plastic straws from restaurants in the state of Florida,
Yeah.
or plastic bags, would that really affect you to the point of where you don't think you could operate with the different disabilities you have? Or, I mean,
No,
just
I don't think.
hypothetical.
I mean, I wouldn't be like pissed off. It wouldn't change too much. The convenience of a straw, you know, a plastic straw at the restaurant is convenient. Just that, it's convenient. But there are ways around it. There's metal straws. I use metal straws when I'm at my house. Some people with certain levels of disability and different disabilities, it is like, I wouldn't say it's pertinent. I think they could still get around it, but it definitely makes some people's lives much easier with like a plastic straw, because they may not have as much movement as I do to be able to get to a different angle or whatever it may be. But I mean, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Like people, there's ways around it.
I think that's strong coming from you.
Yeah. If you don't have to use it, try not to use it.
Just say no.
Just say no. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. Thank you again, Brian. I'll
Thanks
see
for having
you next week on Paralyze This.